Can we just talk about how funny it is that Konami actually officially acknowledged the Pot of Greed meme in a tweet recently? Today I'm going to be talking about the ban list, but not about the cards you think. So we all know the ban list should be releasing within the next couple of weeks, and I've made a video on cards I want unbanned and cards I kind of think will get like hit and stuff, but I don't want to talk about the Firewall Dragons and the Trickstar reincarnations and those types of cards because we all know that those are in the hot seat. I wanted to talk about some cards that maybe aren't quite in your line of vision, stuff that like maybe Konami would hit this and like maybe it makes sense. You might be like, what? They never hit that. That's the idea. It's stuff that like might happen, sort of sleeper picks. I asked on social media to get some suggestions, so I'm including a few of those as well. Let's hop in. So first, Phantom Skyblaster and Galaxy Tomahawk. These are both token generator cards. As we know, Sky Strikers actually use Phantom Skyblaster extremely effectively. It can deliver loads of tokens to the field and actually take advantage of the fact that we now have an extra monster zone, allowing you to get like 6 monsters in the field. That's insane. There are OTKs with this card, and it's a pretty just consistent thing. Also, Galaxy Tomahawk makes loads of tokens. Now, the important thing about both these cards is that neither of them are like dominating the meta. They have weaknesses. For example, Phantom Skyblaster itself is not a searchable card, and you just kind of have to like normal summon it, hard draw it, so it's not necessarily reliable. Galaxy Tomahawk is in a similar position where not that many decks can actually make use of it. You do have to have a way to get 2 level 7s onto the field, and different decks can do that differently, but none of the prominent decks right now are really able to use Tomahawk. And Konami does have a trend of hitting the token generating cards. These cards could very well be in a prime position to get hit as well. I mean, Dandelion's already gone, and you know, Grinder Golem's been limited. These cards could be next. What do you think? Next is Rivalry of the Warlords and Gozen Match. So these two cards are floodgates that have been a part of Yu-Gi-Oh! For quite a long time, and they both have more or less the same effect. And effectively, they just kind of shut the opponent out. If you flip them on a board of monsters, your opponent has to send all monsters they control away until they only control one type or attribute, which is extremely debilitating, and it actually works like better than mass removal cards sometimes, and then it completely prohibits them from doing anything different. This hurts combo decks a lot. It's a great check to something like Goukis, but it also is just really kind of an annoying card to play against. We've seen in the past Konami has kind of hit floodgates, so I feel like these cards honestly might be next. Anti-Spell Fragrance. So this card's been around the block as well. It's a hard counter to Pendulum decks, but it also really counters any spell-heavy strategy. Those can't really play well around Anti-Spell Fragrance. And Anti-Spell Fragrance has existed fine in the game, but I think that with the pace of the game picking up, a card that can shut decks down so much might actually be on Konami's radar. And if you're a Pendulum player, this card is actually unfair. I mean, it feels so horrible to lose to Anti-Spell Fragrance because, I mean, your opponent didn't even outplay you. There's very little counterplay to the card, and it completely invalidates an entire mechanic of the game. I feel like for that reason, it could get limited or even banned because Konami just, you know, I don't think that they would want a card that actually stops a person from playing a strategy 100% with Pendulums, and also just slows the game down to a crawl against most other decks. Now let's get into some more deck-specific picks. So the first is going to be kind of surprising, Ultimate Conductor Tyranno. So as we all know, this is a prominent boss monster for dinosaurs, and it has an extremely powerful effect. You can destroy one of your monsters, which isn't even necessarily a loss sometimes, and Book of Moon your opponent's entire field. It's a quick effect, and it can happen anytime in their main phase, and it's kind of crazy. In addition to booking their whole field, you know, you can also swing at their monsters, deal a lot of free damage with those thousands, and just send the monsters to the grave, stop certain kinds of floating. It's a crazy card, and it also has 3,500 attack points, and you know, as much as we like to say battle phases don't matter, it's still really big and hard to get over. The monster is extremely easy to summon, and sometimes it feels like Ultimate Conductor Tyranno actually punishes you for like trying to play against dinosaurs. If, you know, you maybe negate Soul Eating Oviraptor with, let's say, Solemn Strike, right? And then you happen to also negate any other card or deal with any other card, they can just banish both of them and summon Ultimate Conductor. And it just kind of feels like, oh, well, that's a slap in the face. However, some other cards that people have brought up are Soul Eating Oviraptor itself, and also Double Evolution Pill. Double Evolution Pill summons Tyranno or Overtext, but generally Tyranno, from the deck, and that's pretty powerful. In addition to, you know, triggering like Giant Rex if they're running that, it's really barely a cost to have to banish these cards as long as you're doing it from your grave. And a card that just special summons a boss monster that powerful from the deck, I mean, maybe that should get limited to 1 instead of Ultimate Conductor. or maybe Oviraptor should. But the reason I don't really think Oviraptor should is mostly because I feel like Oviraptor is actually, it's not such a bad card. I don't like dinosaurs, I'm not a big fan, you guys probably know that. But I think that by keeping Oviraptor around, you can still keep dinosaur strategies, vibrant and playing around and stuff like that. But it just means that the overwhelming power of Ultimate Conductor gets a little bit nerfed. Next is Pendulum Magicians. There has been a lot of kind of talk about maybe more of their cards need to get hit. I mean, just at my local card shop, a lot of players use Pendulums, and when you watch Pendulums in action, it's still a pretty nutty deck. The options, I guess, would be Electromite itself could get limited to 1, because most of these combos do involve summoning multiple copies of Electromite over and over and over and using each one because it doesn't have a hard once per turn on its first 2 effects. Some people say that Harmonizing Magician instead should get hit because it summons a free monster from the deck. And so for that reason, it's kind of sometimes in the kind of in the line of fire. And then a third card is actually Chronograph Sorcerer, which combos extremely well with Electromite and also has no hard once per turn like Astrograph, the older brother. It can be used multiple times, it can be recycled by Electromite and keep summoning monsters out from your hand. All 3 of those cards could be potential targets. I'm not sure which one I think would be most likely. I feel like in order, I'd say Electromite would maybe be most likely, then Chronograph, then Harmonizing Magician. But I'm not a dedicated Pendulum player, so maybe you guys can correct me if you think that maybe there's a different problem card or maybe like they should hit it one way or another. So I've heard some murmurings that like maybe Altergeist should get hit. Because in theory, if Goukis get hit, and if Trickstars get hit, then that means that Altergeist will probably be one of the dominant decks that's left remaining. And so people think that maybe Multifaker should get hit. But I think a card that's a little bit more interesting to talk about and that I've heard more whispers about from different players, Trell actually brought to my attention the other day, is Altergeist Mulaseek, which is similar to Goki Octostretch in that you can actually summon it and turn it into Link Karibo and then immediately get it searched, kind of turning it into Altergeist's free Rhoda. And of course it has the ability to out a lot of cards and send them to the grave without triggering certain floating effects, that type of thing. The floater part I don't think is too bad in a vacuum, but the fact that it can instantly get Multifaker is pretty huge. I don't think that they're like super problematic, but like would they be problematic if the top tier decks are removed from the picture, and would that be something that Konami want? Next is one that might be a bit controversial, but I've been thinking about it for a while, and that's Armageddon Knight and or Destiny Hero Malicious. So I think Armageddon Knight would be kind of more the prime target here. Armageddon Knight has existed in this game for quite a while now, and it sends a dark monster from your deck to the grave when it's summoned. The thing is, because it's one of those older cards, it doesn't have a hard once per turn, a restriction on its effect, and it happens no matter how the card is summoned. Right now, just normal summoning Armageddon Knight is a free Isolde. You summon Armageddon Knight, you send Destiny Hero Malicious, and then Malicious gets another Malicious, and you have Isolde for free. Armageddon Knight tends to find its way into decks. Like in Dark Goukis, which is a thing now, it works in that way. But I mean, we've seen it even in like, the Pepe days, for example, where you could just use it to send Zephyros, and Zephyros could do its own set of combos. So, I'm not sure. Is this a problem thing? Would you guys say that Armageddon Knight is an issue? Again, I think it's worse than Malicious, but maybe Malicious will take the brunt. I mean, maybe we'll go back to 2. Links do make it a lot stronger, so who's to say? And the last set of cards I want to talk about is the Invoked engine. So, as you guys know, Invoked cards are very powerful, and we just got ALEISTER and INVOCATION and Mechaba all reprinted. We also got the new Link monster, the Invoker of Madness. The thing is, the Invoked engine's been around for quite a while, and even though it's not making huge waves in the game right now, it stands to reason that it totally could. I mean, the Invoked engine works quite well with Thunder Dragons, and it also is just a very splashable engine with Mech Knights, for example. The thing about it, though, is that INVOCATION and Mechaba and like ALEISTER have all been targets of the ban list in the OCG. I think currently Mechaba's limited to 1 and ALEISTER's limited to 2. Now, with the release of the new ALEISTER Link monster, I don't feel like necessarily limiting ALEISTER would do a whole lot to the deck exactly. I mean, there's a new way to search Invocation, so maybe Invocation itself would get limited to 1. I'm not really sure. I mean, this is something that, again, I want to hear you guys' thoughts on. It's not really a problem right now. I totally agree with that, but it could be in the future, so Konami might have it in their sights. Anyways, that concludes the discussion, so I want to know what you guys think. These were meant to be, like I said, sleeper cards you don't necessarily expect to get hit, but they might, and if they did, it wouldn't be the biggest surprise. Let me know what you think about them all down in the description. I want to hear about it, we can talk, and hopefully we'll get the ban list soon and just find out for ourselves. Alright, that's gonna be it, so hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, give it a thumbs up, be sure to subscribe for more Yu-Gi-Oh! Hit the notification bell so you'll know about all the new videos that we upload. We've got some cool projects going on right now. We want to do a tag duel soon, for example. You can also pick up some cards from TCG Player, one of our sponsors, links in the description. Or you can get a custom playmat from Inked Gaming, our most recent sponsor. Use the code APS10 and you get 10% off. Pretty awesome, yeah? Alright, it's gonna be it. I've gone on long enough. So, without further ado, I will see you guys in the next one.